What's going on, everybody? Here's something a little bit different. I've been wanting to do a ranking of the Kiss albums for quite a while, and I figured this would be a pretty good time to do it. I haven't made a video in quite a while, and this is a good way to sort of get my feet wet again and sort of get back in that rhythm. So, anyway, I'm going to be doing this in a tier list format. Don't really do that too often. We're going to dive into that, see how this goes. So, we'll look at the tiers here. We have Never Enough. That is as in there's never enough of this album. Second tier is going to be I Love It Loud. It's one that I don't mind turning up the volume on, listen to it, but not quite there in terms of being an absolute favorite. Third tier is going to be titled Strange Ways. As in, it's a strange sort of feeling with that one. Like, I don't quite hate it, but it's not one that I go to as frequently. Hard Times, that should be kind of self-explanatory there, where it's one that I don't really seek out. There might be a couple songs on there. Just have a hard time getting through the whole album at hand in that one. Next, we have in the final tier, Rip and Destroy. As in, it's just one I really don't care to listen to. We'll see if anything really makes the cut on that. And you'll see here the albums below. We're not going to be looking at everything that's on here. We're just going to be looking at the 20 main studio albums, the live albums from Kiss Alive 1 through 3, of course, the Symphony Alive 4. We're also taking into consideration Kiss Unplugged and the sort of wild card live compilation You Wanted the Best, for sentimental reasons on that one. And we're looking at only a few of the compilations being Double Platinum, Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits, and Killers. And that is only because of the new songs and remixes at hand there. We're not including the box set or the off the soundboard stuff. And then all these other little compilations here we're not really going to regard because we would be here all day. This is already quite a hefty list because most people usually just do the 20 main studio albums and the 4 solo albums. We're taking a bit of a bigger leap here. So we'll see here. How are we going to do this? We'll go in reverse chronological order, I guess. We'll start with Monster being the final Kiss studio album. That's one that I remember when it came out. It was one I was kind of excited for because it had felt like forever since we had gotten Sonic Boom. It's funny because it was only a 3-year difference, which was nothing compared to the wait from Psycho Circus to Sonic Boom. But Monster is one that I think wasn't a terrible send-off, but it's not one that I find myself going back to all the time. I'd say as being the final Kiss album, they could have done a little bit better. In a lot of ways, it just feels derivative, as if Kiss is trying their best to be Kiss. And I know that might sound contradictory or a little confusing, but honestly, it feels like they're doing an impression of themselves. And that's not taking into account the Tommy and Eric situation. Musically, it's a fine album, but again, derivative is sort of the word I would use to describe Monster. I mean, the song Hell or Hallelujah, that's a good one. I like Back to the Stone Age. Out of This World is alright for what it is. And The Devil Is Me, kind of like that one, a nice dark Gene song. But the rest of it, I don't know. The rest of it I can kind of go without. It's not really the most memorable album. So Monster is going to be put in Hard Times. Sonic Boom. When this one came out, I was pretty damn excited for, because it was most of my life up to that point since we'd gotten a Kiss album. The only one that I was really remembering having come out was Psycho Circus. And I was over the moon thrilled with Sonic Boom when it came out. So much so that, I felt pretty high about it. I was very excited to have a new Kiss album finally. And it was almost everything I'd ever wanted. But over the course of time, it found its way going down the list just a little bit. It's not one that I really hate. Like, I have disdain for the idea of how they utilize Tommy and Eric in the band. I try not to dwell on that too much, looking at this just musically. Sonic Boom isn't a bad album. Paul's voice feels a little more intact here, so that's definitely a plus. It's got some pretty cool songs on here. I think When Lightning Strikes is probably the better of the two Tommy songs that we get between the two albums. It doesn't feel as much of a sort of Ace clone song, really, at that point. We get the Eric Singer vocal on All for the Glory. That's pretty cool. Russian Roulette is a pretty cool Gene song. Modern Day Delilah, that I kind of like that song, but I don't know. I feel like they could have chose a better single for the album. Maybe Never Enough, I think, would have been a pretty good lead-off single. Hot and Cold is pretty cool. Stand, I think it's a little cheesy, but I like that one. Dangerous. I mean, most of this album I actually do enjoy, but I don't love it, but it does kind of feel a little less derivative than Monster. Looking at our first live album on the list now, we've got the Kiss Symphony. This is one that I avoided for a long time. Really avoided it for a long time because I thought, oh, Symphony, that's not hardcore. That's some weak pussy stuff, sort of had that School of Rock mentality. Blow that classical music out your butt. When I came across the DVD a few years back, it was, I don't know, about 10 years ago, I think now, that I came across the DVD of it. Finally gave it a chance. I know that's freaking crazy. Took like 10 years for me to get around to it, and I didn't hate it. I do appreciate them trying to do something a little different here. It was pretty ambitious. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like Kiss is the first band to pull a symphony. I know Metallica had done it beforehand. I feel like someone else might have done it before that even, but to put Kiss with the symphony is a really cool idea, and the way they broke up the show is pretty cool. Of course, you get the standard electric rock and roll set, the acoustic set with the violins and stuff, and then you get the full orchestra in the third set. Standout, I think, was probably the performance of God of Thunder. There's just something about that was really freaking crazy. But yeah, the middle section with the Melbourne Symphony Ensemble was pretty cool. But the third act is where it really kicks into gear. Just really interesting, really unique in the Kiss catalog, but it's not the only unique thing we'll come across. Next up is Psycho Circus, the first album that I remember any hype for, albeit relatively vaguely. I do kind of remember it. We'll kind of go a little more into depth on that at another time. But Psycho Circus, I'm going to say right out the gates, it's somewhere, man, between Rip and Destroy and Hard Times. We'll go ahead and set you in Hard Times right now, Psycho Circus. This is one that, for me, is on the whole pretty unmemorable. It's more the first half of the album that I really find myself able to remember. The title track, the little intro, I feel like we could have done without that. It's pretty cool conceptually, but I don't know. It almost feels like it takes forever to get to the song. And I know it doesn't take too much time. The Ace song, Into the Void, is absolutely killer. You Wanted the Best is a pretty great song. Raise Your Glasses is pretty cool in the second half. I Pledge Allegiance to the State. Within, I don't really care for. It's one I want to like, and that kind of goes with this whole album. Like, I really want to like this album. Like, I really want to love it. But I have a hard time getting through it. Next up, we have Carnival of Souls, The Final Sessions. This was one album I remember as a kid being sort of deterred by. Like, I kind of liked the idea of it, but, you know, when you're a kid and you don't have your own money to pick up a CD, you kind of, you know that your mom or your dad or whoever's taking you into the store, whether it was Best Buy or shit, did Circuit City sell CDs? I don't even remember. But any of those entertainment outlet stores, any of those electronic stores, I remember coming across this one a couple times and looking at it, but always kind of saying no, no, no. And it's ridiculous. I grabbed way more compilations as a kid than I should have. Of course, grabbed a couple of the proper studio albums. That's something we could talk about later, is the whole thing with the compilations here. But Carnival of Souls, this was sort of Kiss trying to get on the bandwagon with the grunge thing. We'll put it here in Strange Ways for now. I do like the idea of this album. It was a little weird, sort of compared to everything else that was going on there, but it does feel in a lot of ways like a sequel to Revenge, where Revenge is them sort of getting into that sort of 90s metal, not quite on the groove metal thing, but it definitely feels like them modernizing their sound, and Carnival of Souls feels like an unfinished follow-up to that. There's just something about it. I don't know if it's the fact that the reunion happened and they kind of had to rush the release because of the bootlegging and all that, but there's just an unfinished quality to it, and maybe that is something a bit intentional with them trying to go for that sort of alternative sound. But this is another one very much like Psycho Circus, where I really prefer the first half of the album. But I'm not as down on it as some people are. Next up, You Wanted the Best. This is one that is... It sort of holds a special place in my heart because it's one I remember as a kid. It was one that my dad would put on the little stereo in my room. It's like one of those little tape players. And it would sort of be the music that I would fall asleep to at night. So there is a great sentimental value to this one. Upon revisiting it all these years later as a grown-up, you know, it's one that I found really fascinating because it's like, oh shit, we got a live version of Room Service and Two Timer, Let Me Know, Take Me. And then I'm listening to it and it's like, wait a second. Those don't sound like authentic 70s performances. It very much sounds like Kiss in the 90s. You could just hear that in Gene and Paul's vocals. But one I remember, like, really clearly remember being like 3 or 4 years old and falling asleep hearing Firehouse. And there was just something about that song that was, I don't know, it was so freaking different, man. And it was something else at the time, like, because I'd heard their hits, their other hits, you know, like Shout It Out Loud's, Rock and Roll All Night, etc. But Firehouse, that was something absolutely new to me, and I don't know, just I think the memories with this one put it in kind of a weird spot. It's not quite one that I'd say, you know what, we will go ahead and put it there, and I Love It Loud for now, just because of the sentimental value to it. Next up, we have Kiss Unplugged. There's almost no arguing. This is one I'm putting in I Love It Loud. It has a chance. Nah, screw that. Screw it. We're going with Never Enough. This is one of the finest performances in the band's career for my money. I think that the playing by Bruce Kulick alone is enough to elevate this to the Never Enough category. I remember on the VHS, on the little behind the scenes, Ace is talking about wanting to have played Shock Me there. And he's talking about, playing lead is hard enough, but to play it on an acoustic, it's outrageous. And you look at some of the songs that Bruce is playing and some of the songs that they just put in the set list, and you got Bruce playing it. It's absolutely insane, just the way he's knocking some of these songs out. And he makes it look easier than it really is. I haven't really tried playing any of those songs on guitar. I'm not really good at playing guitar. But there's just something about it. Just sounds really good. It's nice to hear these songs in their sort of pure form. And Paul's vocals on I Still Love You. Oh my God, dude. And knowing that this was the last time Bruce was an official member, this was the last time we got that Revenge lineup. It was just a really magical performance, man. And of course, you got the reunion happening in the moment there. It was just an absolutely amazing record. Great performance. And it was another one of those ones that I would play a lot as a kid, whether it was the video or the CD. And it's one I find myself going back to a lot. Kiss Alive 3. Oh, this is sort of a frustrating entry here. Kiss Alive 3, we're gonna... It's going here in strange ways. I like the idea of them finally following up what they did with Alive 2, but they didn't follow that same formula. It would have been interesting if they had sort of followed the pattern there. And I know on the Contrarians channel, they have a series of videos where they actually set up their... If they did the 3 albums, Kiss Alive 3, 3 more albums, Kiss Alive 4, they had the whole series where they did that. If Kiss had followed that sort of formula, like they did with the first 2 Alives, I think this one could have had potential to go higher. And I'll even put a link down below for my Spotify playlists that I made for those, because I sort of jumped on the idea. They're like, oh, that's pretty interesting. How would I have done that? How would I have curated Kiss Alive 3, 4, 5, 6, etc.? But I think it's cool that this one actually does sort of diversify the set list compared to the first 2. And to end it with the Star Spangled Banner, that was pretty awesome. Just the rendition of that I thought was pretty cool. And if you watch the video for it, the version of Take It Off that's on there, it's absolutely beautiful. I forget if that's actually on the Kiss Alive 3. I feel like it was on the box set, the live box set there. I don't think it was on the original Kiss Alive 3 though. But either way, no. Kiss Alive 3, it's just one. I don't really love it. I don't hate it. I don't find myself going back to Kiss Alive 3 all that much. Well, we'll go ahead and move Kiss Alive 3, in fact, to the top of Hard Times. Oh, Kiss Revenge. This one... I was listening to this one yesterday at the time I'm recording this, and it's one that I really don't go back to it a whole lot. It's another one of those ones where I feel the weight of the first half of the CD, first half of the album. The second half, I like the songs throughout the whole thing, but the first half is where I find myself mostly listening to it. Unholy's pretty awesome. It's sort of a good Gene getting his head back together, has sort of regained his bolts, so to speak. Take It Off, I really like that one. Tough Love's alright. Spit's a little silly. God Gave Rock and Roll to You. I absolutely adore God Gave Rock and Roll to You. Domino's a lot of fun. Definitely prefer the unplugged version though. And the second half has some pretty cool songs there. The Car Jam 81. Just being a massive Kiss fan, I really dig that one just because what I know about Eric Carr is he was apparently like the good guy in the band. Just an absolute treat to fans and just people in general. Uh, I don't know. I just want to. I know a lot of people really freaking hate. I have a lot of fun with that song. I I don't know. There's something about it I just wanted that I just don't hate it. Uh, so it's kind of a weird relation with this one. I know a lot of people would put it out of the categories here. A lot of people probably would put it here, and I Love It Loud. Maybe Never Enough, but I don't know. It's a strange relation with that one. I don't hate it, but Revenge is pretty solid, I guess, for what it is. So a little overhyped, maybe. I'm not going to go out and say it's overrated, but it's overhyped a little bit. Next up, we have Hot in the Shade. We're not gonna beat around the bush. That is a rip and destroy right there. It's too long. I do like some of the songs on it. It's another one where first half, and I know it's like you say you're a massive Kiss fan, but you've got this first half syndrome with a lot of these ones that you've already selected here. I feel like the quality almost diminishes as you get toward the middle of this one, but as you get to the end, you sort of get a little pickup again. I think Rise to It's a pretty good lead off track. Hide Your Heart is another one of those ones I absolutely adore. Forever, it's the hit, and I freaking can't get enough of it. It's a great one. Well, Street Giveth and the Street Taketh Away. If that one, I feel like if that was reworked just a little bit more, it could have been a little better. Betrayed is another cool one. Let's see. Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell, I really do appreciate that one. There's just something interesting about that one. And it does sort of feel like Gene coming back to form after that weird period here between Animalized and Smashes Thrashes there. All of his stuff's not quite up to the snuff here yet. And Little Caesar, I think, might be the coolest song on here just because it's the first time we get an original song by Eric. Eric Carr's first vocal performance of his own song. Might be one of the standouts on there. And Boomerang is a pretty cool way to close the album off, but honestly, you trim 5 songs off of it, and I'd say you would have had about a Strange Ways going on here. But Hot in the Shade's one I don't really go through a whole lot. Like, I'll play the songs I like, and then I'm bouncing. And I don't usually play them all at the same time. Next up here, we have Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits. This is another one of those compilations, but this one is interesting because it does have 2 original songs on it, and it has a few remixes throughout. It's definitely one that's worth listening to. This one, this might be controversial to be putting it over in a live. It's a Strange Ways for me. I really, out of the original songs for this one, I do love Let's Put the X in Sex. It's absolutely silly. It's Kiss Jovi going on there. It probably feels like it could have been a sort of a scrap, a leftover from Crazy Nights. But I get a kick out of that song. It's silly. It's fun. Eric Carr vocal on Beth is pretty cool. Wasn't completely necessary. I think it would have been cooler if we had gotten like maybe a live cut of Young and Wasted with him on vocals. That would have been a little better. Or even just a recut of that with his vocals, a studio version. That would have been freaking awesome. You Make Me Rock Hard, though. I don't care about that. I like what they did with Love Gun on here. I don't like what they did with I Love It Loud. The drums just sound a little weird on that one. I will say the superior version of the studio version of Rock and Roll All Night is on here. Eric Carr's drum sound is freaking great on that. It was actually not too long ago, actually, that one of my buddies here on the YouTube, Danner Bobanner, was on a Dazed and Confused watch party. He pointed out that the version of Rock and Roll All Night is actually the Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits version. And I don't know how I never picked up on that. I was absolutely dumbfounded by that. So it was that little bit of information that actually made me go back and listen to it. And I found myself going through the whole thing, and I found myself not really finding it to be the quote unquote useless compilation. Definitely a fun one to look at, listen to. Crazy Nights now. I like the title track. I like Reason to Live. And Turn on the Night is kind of cool. Thief in the Night is alright. And is it No No No? I think it's No No No. The intro to that's pretty cool, but I really want to put it in Rip and Destroy. We'll give it a really low Hard Times right now. And depending on how we're feeling at the end of this, Hot in the Shade could go up to Hard Times. Or Crazy Nights could join it down there and Rip and Destroy. I don't have a lot of kind words to say about Crazy Nights, but it's one of those ones I really want to like it. I mean, that album cover is freaking cool. Just the whole shattered glass effect, and you got the different images of the members in there. It just looks so freaking cool. I wish the album could live up to the artwork, but you know what they say, shit in one hand, want in the other. Next up is Asylum. Kiss at the peak 80s. This one is a pretty good I Love It Loud right there. King of the Mountain is a kick-ass way to start off the album. Any way you slice it is a kind of mediocre Gene song, but I don't hate it. The Paul songs on here are all freaking great. It's the introduction of Bruce Kulick, and I'd say out of the 80s stuff, definitely his best shining moment. It's between Asylum and Revenge are definitely the two highlights for Bruce, I think, as a guitar player, as far as studio albums go. And he definitely finds the right way to introduce himself here on this one. Tears Are Falling is absolutely great. Again, the Paul songs, definitely enjoy most of them. All Night, it's a silly one, but I absolutely enjoy that. As far as those party songs, those party anthems, I definitely would take that over Rock and Roll All Night for sure. On Shout It Out Loud, I'd kind of have to flip a coin, but we all know there's two sides to those, so you never know where it'll land. Oh, that was absolutely ridiculous. Tell me about it. Secretly Cruel's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't really have anything really negative to say about Asylum except for the imagery of the band at this time. Animalize. This is one, I feel like Gene's presence is more missed on this one. I feel like some people will argue for Asylum having the biggest MIA thing going on for Gene. Some might say Crazy Nights. But I think maybe it's just felt more on Animalize because that's sort of where it starts at. I don't know. It's another one that falls like right there in that I Love It Loud category. The Paul songs, again, are kind of the MVP here. I've had enough Into the Fire. It's a nice metal way to kick it off. Under the Gun feels pretty metal. Get All You Can Take, Heaven's on Fire. Again, the hit, but it's a pretty damn good hit. And the Gene songs aren't too bad. I mean, uh, they're not great, but they're not bad. Burn Bitch Burn is silly, but the lyrically it's not too bad. I feel like it's the one line, put my log in your fireplace. You know, it's that one line I feel is the main reason why everybody shits on that one. Is it great? No. It's no Calling Dr. Love, but it's not like anything off of Monster. I'd say it's comparable to something like Psycho Circus or Hot in the Shade in terms of lyrical quality, but it doesn't feel as let's look back and see what we've done before. It doesn't feel like he's trying to retread. Like Gene's trying. He was making movies, for crying out loud. Next up we have Lick It Up. Lick It Up, man. Go ahead here. Lick It Up is another one where, oh, does it go Never Enough? Really, it's not for the title track, man. But just because I've heard Lick It Up, the song, so many times, it's going into I Love It Loud. Because that is the one song that I do skip on the album. So that's the only thing keeping it out of Never Enough. Lick It Up, I think, is here one of the most solid albums they've done, especially when you consider the time and everything, them taking off the makeup. It was the right album. I don't know, it's pretty damn solid, and I feel like a lot of people have sort of forgotten about how great that one is. It's definitely feels like they tried to change their style a little bit too, but that could just be a visual thing, sort of your eyes and your ears screwing with you. Don't want to go too esoteric there, but I don't know. It's a great one though. Exciter kicks off the album. Not for the Innocents, a great way to follow that up. Young and Wasted is absolutely freaking great. Would have been nice to get Eric singing on it. Gimme More. All Hell's Breaking Loose. Absolutely love that. Million to One. Fits Like a Glove is kind of silly, but I don't really find myself skipping it. Dance All Over Your Face. Fun Dirty Ditty there. On the Eighth Day. That might be my favorite song on the album, honestly. But yeah, outside of the title track, man. Creatures. Undoubtedly Never Enough. One of my favorite Kiss albums, as you can see, when you consider how high I praised Unplugged earlier, for me to put Creatures there, that speaks pretty highly of Creatures. I think we all know sort of the story there. It's the album that Eric Carr joined the band to make. And when they had done The Elder, and then we're like, hey, let's put out a quick compilation real quick. And I don't know, man. This one, the only thing I don't like about it is the sort of production hell backstory that it has to it. Where it's like, yeah, Ace isn't a member anymore. And we have Vinnie Vincent and all these other guitar players sort of auditioning on the album. It's a little frustrating to figure out who the hell even plays on this one, because you got Paul and Eric and Gene all playing bass. I think there was a couple other guys playing bass throughout the album. Eric Carr wasn't the only drummer on the album. But yet it's still sonically, for what it is, if we're going off the idea that no, it is the guys on the cover. Taking it for what it is, man, it's one of the best Kiss albums. Anyway, Kiss Killers. I only like half of the new songs on here. And that's Nowhere to Run and I'm a Legend Tonight. Don't really care for Down on Your Knees or Partners in Crime. The songs that follow, it's pretty interesting for a compilation, I think. Trying to double check the track listing there. Yeah, the track listing on a whole is not too bad. So that one, we'll give that we'll put that sort of in the middle of Strange Ways there. Don't hate it. Only kind of like I said, half of the new songs. Kind of the same deal there with Smashes Thrashes. But since there are two and two on the new songs there, we'll give it a bump. And it is interesting to see Escape from the Island and Talk to Me on a compilation. Yeah, definitely an interesting one there. So next up we have The Elder. The Elder is one, it's sort of that album, that divisive album, the one you either love it, hate it. There's not really any middle ground that I've found people demonstrating with this one. I will start by saying it's not a great Kiss album, but as an album, I really enjoy it. The Elder is one that it's no Yes album. It's definitely not Pink Floyd. They're definitely shooting high here. They're shooting for the stars. They find themselves in a little bit of a dark light, but this is one that I personally find to be one of their more interesting albums. And it's one that I listen to a little more often than some others. Oh, this is the one placement I was dreading, honestly. You know, The Elder's got to go somewhere in I Love It Loud, I think. Because I know there's a couple songs I don't really care for on here. Escape from the Island, sometimes I'll gloss over it. Odyssey, sometimes I'll skip over that one. But that's about it. And Fanfare, usually I will start this one with Just a Boy. But it's got some pretty stellar songs on here. Only You, Under the Rose, Dark Light, World Without Heroes, The Oath. I even like Mr. Blackwell. And I found out recently that some people don't care for that one. And I is an absolutely amazing song. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'd probably listen to it before I'd listen to Asylum. I'd probably listen to it before I'd listen to Lick It Up. So what we're going to do. Elder is a high, I Love It Loud. And I don't care who knows it. Next up, we have Unmasked. This is one of the more infuriating albums, too, because it's like... After the backlash that they got with Dynasty, I don't know why they would try to make Unmasked. I get that Dynasty was a pretty good seller, but they were thinking more with their wallets, not with their hearts. This one's got a pretty good selection of songs. The poppy production, I think if it was a heavier production, this album could have been a lot more well received by the fans. And it's one that I remember my dad having the cassette for, and it was one I didn't listen to until I was a few years older. And I was always infatuated with the comic book sort of idea going on there. But the album sonically is not my favorite. But I don't really hate it either. I mean, Naked City is one of the standouts on here. Talk to Me. Two Sides of the Coin. That's one I'm kind of... Sometimes I'll like it, sometimes I won't. It's one I really go back and forth on. Torpedo Girl is just freaking silly and stupid.
Uh, She's So European. Honestly, I like that one. Probably like, you don't like Torpedo Girl, but you like She's So European. Yeah, yeah, I do. Easy as it seems, I kind of like What Makes the World Go Round. You're All That I Want. Tomorrow, I don't really care for. Of course, the hit Shandy's pretty catchy. Sometimes I'll skip over it though. Is That You is pretty cool. Where will Unmasked go? Oh, yeah, you get a pretty high Strange Ways Unmasked. You're gonna get a high Strange Ways from me there. Dynasty. I'm not even gonna pretend on that one. Dynasty is a pretty high to mid. I Love It Loud. Sure, it's the disco album, but that's only a couple songs that you sort of get that going on there. I mean, Dirty Living kind of has the disco beat. I Was Made for Loving You has that disco feel to it. But you got 2000 Man. Sure Knows Something almost feels a little on that poppier side, but not full disco. Charisma is one that I don't really care for. Magic Touch, that's a great little Paul song there. Hard Times, X-Ray Eyes, Save Your Love. It's a pretty hard rocking album. Like, you listen to some of the songs on here, it's a little more rock than it is disco. Dynasty's pretty awesome. Oh, we've reached the solo albums. Peter Criss solo album, I kind of like that one. I've even listened to some of his other solo albums that he did after this one, and I don't really hate it because Peter, I think, always had the coolest voice out of the original four members. His solo album, just because it's got a few songs that I'm not always in the mood for, it's not one I go to too often. I don't have a hard time getting through it, but for the most part, it's one that I don't mind listening to all the way through. It's definitely one that I would put on like it's the easy listening one. And if we're going with the idea of we're gonna entertain the idea that the Kiss solo albums are Kiss albums proper, this is the easy listening record. I mean, you've got Easy Thing, that's one that I enjoy. I Can't Stop the Rain, it's freaking awesome. Hooked on Rock and Roll is silly, but I have fun with it. That's the kind of sugar Papa likes. I enjoy that one. And I know a lot of people don't care for that one. Don't You Let Me Down. That's a very sentimental one for me there. It's just got me through some, hard times. So that's a interesting little segue we'll take into the Ace Frehley album. This one, you're not gonna put that in Rip and Destroy. That's one of the freaking best solo albums there, and honestly, I'm not gonna even bullshit you guys. It's the best solo album out of the four. I know how original of a thought that the Ace Frehley solo album is the best one. Right out of the gate, this one kicks you right in the nuts with Rip It Out. The cover of New York Groove is freaking awesome. Fractured Mirror is absolutely great. Snowblind, Speeding Back to My Baby. There is nothing on this album that I skip, and if I only had a short time to listen to it, and if I did have to skip a song, I would skip the silence between the songs. So yeah, Ace Frehley's solo album is definitely one I could never get enough of. The Paul Stanley solo album, the most Kiss-like of the bunch. You know, where's it gonna go? Definitely not in Strange Ways. Yeah, I'd say that's about right there. I love it loud. The Paul Stanley solo album I really enjoy. As a kid, Paul was always my favorite member. As I've gotten older, sort of been seeing the greatness of Ace. But the Paul Stanley solo album, it's definitely one that I feel is a little more, you could say it rocks my boat a little bit more. Sort of have been considered a hopeless romantic in a lot of ways. So, I find this one to be a little bit relatable. Hold Me, Touch Me is one that a lot of people don't like. I love it. I love that one. Goodbye is a great closer, and cheeky. It's a freaking cheeky choice right there. Good job, Paul. Move On is great. Ain't Quite Right. Wouldn't You Like to Know Me? A bit smug, but enjoyable. Love in Chains. It's all right. It's all right. Really dig the Paul Stanley solo album. Now, the Gene Simmons solo album. Now, where is this experimental piece of avant-garde going? This piece of shit is going in Hard Times. And I feel piece of shit might be a little too rough. It's not a great one, but it tries too much. It tries too hard to be something that it's not, something that it shouldn't have been. And I think a lot of it just has to do with expectations. Great expectations, you could say. A nice little Destroyer reference. Yeah, I'd say that's about accurate there. Well, we'll do you right. We'll put you at the beginning of Hard Times because I think I'll go through and listen to some of the songs on there more than any of these other Hard Timers. Yeah, there's See You Tonight. Really dig that one. Man of a Thousand Faces, Mr. Make Believe, Radioactive. That's really about it. Those 4 songs are the only ones I really go for on it. Don't really care for the Gene Simmons solo album. And, we'll put you there. Double Platinum. That's another one that's just kind of... You're kind of a Hard Times there. Strutter 78, I don't really like that. I thought it was pretty cool. I think this is the one that has the extended, or not the extended guitar. Yeah, it waits for the drums to kick in on Hard Luck Woman. That I kind of liked on there. It makes it feel a little, makes the song feel a little more tender, a little more sentimental. The way they did Firehouse on here, I don't really care for. Yeah, this one, I don't know. I don't really like a lot of what Sean Delaney did on this one. I don't know how I feel about taking the rock bottom guitar and putting it in front of She. I don't know. It's one I'm just kind of lukewarm on, like really lukewarm. And it's one I really want to like, because the whole idea of the album is freaking amazing. Just the stories I've heard from the old time Kiss fans, that would have been a hell of an album to have. Kiss Alive 2. That son of a bitch is definitely going up in here, and we'll keep you right there for now. This is one of those great sequels, if we're using film terms. Everything on here I really enjoy. The weakest thing on here, I think, is the Any Way You Want It cover by the Dave Clark 5. I like the illusion of Hard Luck Woman played live, the illusion of Tomorrow and Tonight played live. The version of God of Thunder on here is freaking amazing. Shock Me is freaking great to hear being done live. yeah, this one all around is freaking great, and it's another one of those ones that would be around the house when I was a kid. So it's one that really, really caught my eye, one I gravitated to quite a bit. Next up is Love Gun. Love Gun is going to be a high. I love it loud. This one I enjoy almost all the way through. You know, looking at it, the weakest song on here is Tomorrow and Tonight. So that one honestly is gonna. It's going up here. It's going up here. Never enough. Because looking at the track listing, it's one that I think I can listen to all the way through. And yes, I did say Tomorrow and Tonight is the weakest song on here for my money. I love Then She Kissed Me. This whole album, honestly, is pretty freaking great, and it's one of the first CDs I think I actually picked up that wasn't a compilation by these guys as a kid. So for that, it definitely goes in a high spot. Rock and Roll Over. Rock and Roll Over is really high up there. This is another one that's almost a perfect album. It's one that I go back to a lot. Being that it's in the Never Enough category, it's one that I can't quite get enough of. Like, I Want You, Take Me, Calling Dr. Love, Ladies Room. I even like Baby Driver on here. Love 'Em, Leave 'Em. That song goes by pretty quick, so I don't mind it. Mr. Speed, See You in Your Dreams. That one has actually grown on me quite a bit. I used to really not care for it. Hard Luck Woman and Making Love. Great 2 songs to close the album out with. Destroyer. This is one that this one is also the same sort of thing with Love Gun. One of the first ones that I got a CD version of. Over time, though, I think the constant replaying of it and just seeing the constant appraisal of it from, people who aren't necessarily Kiss fans just sort of taints it just a little bit. And honestly, my personal feeling for it is sort of waned just a little bit, but nothing too drastically. I like Detroit Rock City. It's a great song. I think King of the Nighttime World is probably better. I love the way those two bleed into each other. God of Thunder's freaking amazing. I like Great Expectations. I know that's probably a hot take on that. Flaming Youth is one that, as a teenager, I really, really loved that one because it resonated with me. But over the last 4 or 5 years, it's one that I've been kind of outgrowing. Sweet Pain. It's funny because I used to not like Sweet Pain, and that's sort of taking the place of Flaming Youth there, where those two are sort of switching spots on me. Shout It Out Loud is one that I always feel like I am tired of it, but when I hear it, I freaking love it. Beth Anymore I gotta be in the mood for, but that's one when I hear it and it catches me at the right time, I'll sing along to it. Do You Love Me? Fuck, that might. Damn, between King of the Nighttime World, Do You Love Me, and Shout It Out Loud, those ones kind of fight for the top spot there for me, honestly. Destroyer is a pretty good album. I wouldn't quite put it up here in the echelon of Never Enough. And yeah, we've got now the first Kiss Alive. Ooh. You wanted the best, you got the best. We all know that this is the Alpha, the Omega. But honestly, I prefer Kiss Alive 2 to it. I prefer Kiss Unplugged. Now, Kiss Alive is freaking great. It's solid. It's raw. It's the one that saved the band and put them on the map. It saved Casablanca. It saved everyone involved with that. I can't take anything away from Kiss Alive. It's one of those ones that I think if I had listened to that one earlier than I did, I probably would have been putting it a little bit higher, but it's still not never enough. It's one of those ones where I won't skip anything. I'll sit there and listen to the whole 100,000 Years drum solo and Paul's rap to the audience there. And I think it might be, it's one of like 5 or 6 Kiss albums that I've heard on vinyl, so definitely holds a special place there. Kiss Alive 1, even if I have it, say sacrilegiously below MTV Unplugged and Kiss Alive 2, it's still in one that I can never get enough of, so don't be too angry with me, guys. Next up, we have Dressed to Kill. This one was sort of like almost has that last-ditch effort feel to it. It's one that I always was fascinated by the artwork for. Remember seeing it on a Kiss trading card. They had like one of the takes of it. And I think it was another one my dad had on cassette tape. So seeing that one around the house a lot. Gave us Rock and Roll All Night. Joy, joy to the world there. But it's got She, Love Her All I Can, Come On and Love Me, Rock Bottom, Ladies in Waiting, Two Timer, even Room Service. Anything for My Baby. I really do like every song on this one. Rock and Roll All Night even is not too terrible. And I would say it's between Rock and Roll All Night and Getaway, honestly, as far as my least favorite song on here. Where to? Well, we're gonna give you it. I Love It Loud right now. Next up, we have Hotter Than Hell. This whole thing here, the title song, Parasite, Going Blind, Let Me Go Rock and Roll, All the Way, Watching You, Strange Ways. Is it going in strange ways? Absolutely not. That's another one of those never enough ones. And this was one I did have the cassette for the longest time. I think I lost it when I was about 12 years old. But it's one that was always a sentimental one. I didn't even have a damn tape player to put it in, but I would carry it around. But yeah, Hotter Than Hell has definitely been a grower over the years. Definitely is in the discussion for favorite Kiss album for me there. Absolutely deserving of a high spot here. And then we have the debut. This thing is almost a greatest hits album in and of itself. Strutter, Nothing to Lose, Firehouse, Cold Gin, fucking Deuce, 100,000 Years, Black Diamond. If you took off Love Theme from Kiss, Kissin' Time, and Let Me Know, you still have a damn solid album here. I think those 3 last mentioned songs are the only ones that don't really appear on Greatest Hits, and they're not even half that bad. Kissin' Time is probably the weakest effort on here. The Kiss debut. You were definitely somewhere up here, Never Enough. Oh, shoot. My soul is hurting on this one. Yeah, we'll throw you right there. Yeah, so that's what I got right there, guys. This is a little different than I was expecting it to turn out. The debut is one I've been finding myself listening to a lot more, and honestly, about a year ago, it probably would have been somewhere in the middle here. Somewhere in the I Love It Loud, maybe a High Strange Ways, but I don't know, going back to it and being able to reflect on the career of Kiss now that the band is no longer active, for now, knocking on wood. I don't know. It kind of put me in a bit of a Kiss mood to sort of revisit their catalog, and having gone through it, that's sort of how I feel about all the albums right now. And yeah, so the only one I really don't care for is Hot in the Shade. Of course, the ones here in Hard Times don't go to all that often, but even the worst Kiss album has a great song. And you look at the way it's staggered here, it only gets better for me, And I do find it funny too, real quick, while we're here. None of the tiers that are named after proper Kiss songs, of course, Rip and Destroy comes from Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, a play on Hotter Than Hell. None of the song titles that represent the tiers actually have the album. I find that to be a bit humorous there. Yeah, because Never Enough there, that was on a fucking Sonic Boom, wasn't it? I Love It Loud off there. Strange Ways off Hotter Than Hell. Hard Times off Dynasty. Well, most of those are... None of them actually landed in Hard Times there. It's absolutely great. Isn't that wonderful?